for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video update with me here today. I'm outside in nature, I'm outdoors if you can see. So I try to get the best spot possible for the recording because we have some winds to shelter me amidst this rocks. I'm kind of like underneath a mini cave. So there's still roads thereby. I don't have my microphone, so I hope you're going to be able to hear me. If not, I always tell people get your headphones on. I'm going to have an interesting update here today. I wanted to do it sooner, but life just didn't let me. There were so many things happening in between. There's still so many delays, and although I usually share this type of material on Patreon about mission updates and what's currently happening behind the scenes, my family of light and Aurea really wanted me to get this across to as many people as possible. As you know, there's not a lot of people watching, and yet those who do matter. So the one thing I want to tell you before I begin with today's topic is that these are such intense times, and for those on the Christ path, you have to be aware that it's not like the more work you do, the closer you are to the goal, which is union and complete creation of our sovereign reality, of our ascended reality, completely claiming it as a whole, each being sovereignly, independently on their own, and yet together as one family of illumined light. It's not going to be like, okay, now you've done this amount of work and darkness will leave you alone. No. You know that always is the darkest before the dawn, and it's the hardest before each breakthrough. So there was a lot of breakthrough work we had to do recently. It was very intense. I'm not going to go sharing all about it. I do many tiny frequency like energy updates and daily readings on my Telegram page in case you're interested. If not, just follow through with what I'm saying. I'm saying is that you have to be now. These are the times. They're telling me all the time now. It's now or never. There's a complete cycle now that's being, in a way, it's in its ending completion process, and it has to do with the way we operate with darkness, the way evil has been coming through inception and transgression work. And the most ignorant thing anyone can do is watch and say it's happening to someone else or it's happening to the collective, and not recognizing yourself as a part of it. That's the most ignorant thing you can do. Well, what I'm hearing and seeing is that this collective hypnosis work went so deep, it's so intense that most people are naturally being bounced off of, almost like there's a program running within many star beings that don't pierce the shell because it's only going to burn you. So they stay stagnant, they stay rather in this status quo mode, not doing anything about it, and think, oh, it's happening to Polona, Aurea, oh, it's happening to other star beings. It's not happening to me. It's happening to everyone. You live in a matrix, right? And you have to know that these beings, these evil transgressors, because they have zero influence in illumined realms, because they were banned from the kingdoms of the divine, kingdoms of heaven, their tactics is that the moment creation angels and pure star beings come here on this planet, usually on mission works, it's, you know, now they're here in our terrain, so let's do whatever we want to them. Let's grab a hold of them. And now let's show them that here they belong to us. And they use all the kind of tactics to keep you ensnared in this matrix. And a lot of beings unfortunately forget. And because this hypnosis work is so intense, it can go so deep, you don't see it, you can't smell it. You have to be a very skilled magician. You have to have so much training, cosmically speaking, that prolonged lifetimes on earth made many souls very weak. I'm not saying you're weak as a soul. I'm saying you're weak when it comes to this energy. It outgrew itself, and I've been repeating this for so long, and the more I repeat it, the less views I get, because people don't want to hear about that. People want to stay stuck and stagnant, and they're going to stay in the matrix continuously. They're not going to get out. I had a session with someone recently said to me they had a dream when they actually walked through the matrix. They walked through the bubble, they found a gateway, the door closed, so they had to find a new one. And as they were walking, they met aspects and even people in their life who literally told them, I'm not going there where you're going. I don't want to. I'm happy with here. I'm happy staying here. So you have to know that it's not your work to get people across and to make them search for that exit, which is out of the matrix and into a reality. You have to focus on you doing that. And it's one of the many tactics of the dark ones to keep us ensnared by dealing with others who clearly don't want this, who clearly don't want to get out, and getting entangled, and then you get yourself into these disappointing situations, which is not your work. Whoever feels oppressed and recognizes and knows that you need to do your work is the one who has chosen to wake up. Being aware of these things happening, and you can watch videos and you say, I'm aware of this happening, and being awake to it in your own body is totally different thing. Okay, so recently Spirit has been telling me, reiterating these words, and I watched a video and someone had a t-shirt with the words now or never. They kept repeating it. It's now or never. For many beings now, it's like a final push out. It's like a final contraction that will get us out of this. But the thing is, it's getting deeper and deeper. So I'm going to tell you my own example. We were so well in the spiral work we were doing. Each time we went deeper, I received transmissions about how to go. And the last stage was hologram work. And I wanted to even share it on Patreon, but I couldn't get to it because I had other distractions and other situations coming into my life, almost like piercing my reality. So I would literally be pulled into that timeline and that narrative. And you have to be so careful now because this will be a continuation. If you're not very skilled, you're not going to smell it. You're not going to say something's off here. This is not the divine guiding me here. This is not the divine pulling me. And we're all about divine guidance, and we've been like that for years, but you have to snap out of that as well. You have to be with what's real, what's here now, and what's trying to lure you for your attention. And it might smell nice, but it's not going to be that which guides you truly through the sovereignty of the Christ and on your true sovereign path and out of the matrix and into your ascended reality and into the unions with your beloveds, with the counterparts that is not the same as the twin flame that the New Age is presenting. That's addictive and codependent and waiting for a person and wanting them to snap out of it when you think you have. And when you think you're waiting for someone to snap out of something and you're waiting, then you yourself haven't snapped out of something, right? That's what an awake, truly aware person knows and recognizes as a part of their reality. So you might be dealing with someone who's totally on a karmic wheel and you're already building your ascended reality where they perhaps haven't still taken even the first step. They might and they might not. It's up to them. And God has been presenting many of these opportunities to also open up a doorway into a totally new reality. Some took them, some didn't. And now I've told you that we're coming into the time when things will be cut off. And specific souls won't have a chance anymore because an ascension gateway has been holding on for a specific amount of time. And even people or beings who have never even been on earth before, I told you the consciousness they showed me, that it's our consciousness of Aurea has never been manifest in a physical form yet. The only reason why we came here with this consciousness is because we were the only ones to be able to work with transgression, because we have the most training, the most knowledge about this. That's why I was the first one talking about this and how deep it goes and all the factors and what's happening. Because I saw it in spirit, not in the physical. You have to see with the eyes of spirit. Spirit dictates the reality. And when you can see, even in your dream time, in your dreamscapes, the holograms that are being pushed upon you to narrate your physical reality, you will know that it doesn't come from your sovereign self or heavenly reality. It comes from many, many holograms that are trying to be pushed into a reality as like a forced landscape, like a forced dreamscape. You know, like in the movie Inception, a dream within a dream within a dream. I'm going to explain some more about this, okay, through my own experience. You have to see through those gateways of light, but you also have to see the holograms of deceptions that keep on playing on. And usually these are the most repetitive things that don't leave you alone. Like for me, it was a person, but it was also my house, my home, my home situation, right? I'm going to give you one example. In the last few weeks, these thoughts of worry started coming up again. What's going to happen with us and a roof and this is so bad. And I didn't share this publicly, but I talked about this on Patreon, and we did some of this work and Illumined contracts and agreements, right? So I had a repetitive, this means several times, and each time when I fell back asleep in the morning, that was the dream. When you're kind of viable like this, right? You're in between, and you're very vulnerable at that point. And I had this constant dream where I was in the house. It was not the same like hours, but it was kind of like a platform for it. It was kind of like the blueprint for this house, and everything was wrong with it. And I kept finding gateways and other people coming in and openings and malfunctions, and it was like cracks and falling apart and items of people I didn't own, and it was like an endless amount of work. So the hologram that tried to push into me and into my reality, trying to insert itself into my reality, was this constant work. And I told you that for years my cycle was, I was the vessel for the spirit work, but I also was always needing to be more in a masculine dominant energy because of the difficulty of my mission. I couldn't just be the feminine, I couldn't be in the receptive mode, I couldn't just trust, and I had to battle a lot of battles. Demons, evil, beyond your scope of imagining. This is pure evil that this transgression is. Imagine this claiming our own bodies as their own and thinking they can do whatever they want. How is this not evil? And how are people not wanting to hear that? Good luck with staying asleep. It's only going to get worse. But what I'm saying is, you have to recognize that which doesn't make you feel divine and free. And how this then worked, it projected itself into my reality, so I had constant worries. And basically buying this house, I knew the moment we got it, because we were in an endless moving, right, cycle. We needed to settle down so I could become Aurea again, repair my gateways, insert myself again, do my repair work, do my healing work, and finally establish birthing Aurea, resurrecting Aurea in my body again, and doing the inner healing for my inner child, so that Aurea and my physical self, my physical being, could be one again. It was difficult work, and I needed to not be persecuted all of the time and, go from one place to the next. So there was no other choice at that point but to buy something and to settle down and to grow roots. But we knew it was another temporary place, which was difficult because we already lived in a temporary situation for so long. It was difficult to accept that for me, but it was the only way to truly accept the truth. And the moment this darker energy tried pushing me, no, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. You have this house. You have to own its problems. And the problems were not mine. It was the same in the dream, in the hologram. So it kept repeating itself, like these leftovers of people who lived there before. And it was like constant. I had to find it out, like, oh, what? This too? Oh, that too? And it was like, oh, what do I do with it? Who do I call? It was that endless feeling. I can't just get back to myself, to my body, deal with myself. And a lot of star children are now experiencing this in their own lives. I've had sessions with a few, and they each feel like they can't just get back to themselves. They're always dealing with other drama. And it took me a very strong energy presence within myself that I have, that I own, to recognize that this is BS, that it's infiltration, it's not a reality. And no matter how bad my situation is, I did not come here as Aurea, in this advanced being, to first have to undergo so much pain and trials through this transgression work and then deal with re-innovating the whole house and being such a shitty condition. I can't. It's not what I chose, and you have to know this is not what I've chosen. You have to resist it. You have to fight it back. This is where we are now. And yesterday we had a huge breakthrough because we had a nature trip and all this came out and we were like lashing out, venting out, pulling it out. All these strings, like the devil trying to pull us at their strings. And we asked for guidance, and all of our Illumined team, especially Jesus Christ, came through. And he said, it's so good that you cut this off. You have to resist it because you have to now go towards where all of us are moving. He said, all of us now are manifesting beloved union. We're all now with God in this energy. And this is the most important step of our mission. The most important step. We're right at its closure. He said, but you won't believe us how close we are because of all the troubles and trials you already experienced in these years. He said, I understand you. You won't believe it how close we are. But you have to break through this final few steps that the darkness tries for you to get your attention elsewhere. See the dog barking? It's like constant, you know something's off. You feel it in your body because what darkness is trying to do for so long is to make you feel that you're all alone and you have to struggle and how do I get the next job, how to get the next position, how to create something, that you forget that you're this magician. But you cannot be a true magician without the presence of God. That's what they are. They're trying to function as they are, and then they get you on your team. But with this reinforcement, with this power of God, like when it runs through you, when you acknowledge it, when you know that when you serve God and you absolutely choose God over anything else, no matter how difficult your situation is, people get victimized and they're like, yeah, I can't because I have this and that, God has abandoned me. Then you're not choosing God. You're really choosing God as the divine force of life. When no matter what's happening in your life, we've been through thick and thin, you all. I'm not sure anyone has been through so much that we have. But, you know, I'm Aurea, so naturally this was created for me on purpose. But it was like time and time over, constant nagging, pushing oppression that we just couldn't manifest this reality that we wanted. It was so hard. And we could have quit, right? We could have just said, like, I'm just going home. I'm going back. I wanted to several times, as you know, especially last year. I thought I'm literally going because I saw no other options. It was too intense, the barrier back then. And somehow things unveiled, and we're now very close. God has persisted. God has persevered because I've chosen to persevere. So you truly choose God, that no matter what's happening in your life, you choose it. And you know that this power of God is reinforcing through you. And that's how all darkness can go and melt away. But the moment you think the voices of the dark are the strongest ones, that's when you're off the trail, my dears. We've all been there, and I can tell you the fact because that's mostly what I'm dealing with. I don't give attention to 3D things. Spirit is my realm. Spirit is the world where I'm strong. So for me, if in my life I tried to handle things physically, what would I do? What would I do? I tried to deal like this, I was already encircled. The moment I realized, no, I'm a spirit being. I've never been physical. That's where I do my work. That's my work. If they're trying to push me elsewhere, I know it's BS. It's not coming from God. But when I know my truth, in serving God, God serves me. God serves all of its children. The moment you know that, darkness can get you to be isolated and alone and poor and a victim. Many do that still. Because they feel somehow their story is more important and more terrible than someone else's. And then the huge ego around them, their walls that they're building because no one can now reach them in their misery. How can you reach someone who already has a huge shell, huge ego? You can't. How can God reach someone like that? Usually through turmoil in their life and huge dose of karma, which maybe finally wakes them up in the end. God works in mysterious ways, but it's always persistent, right? To wake someone up to their truth. But our truth is the loving serving of God brings us that service back. And when you know this feeling, ultimately, God won't fail you because you're sticking with it. God won't fail you. And you trust it so much. You have such faith in yourself. Darkness can win over you, but it will try, my dears. Those of you who are so close to union now, like Jesus said, we're so close. In my case as Aurea, they said this union is so important because it's like the top of the trine that will bring a union to so many, he said. That's why all of their focus is now there. And our focus is to human beings has to be there as well. But it can be, if you can't be in that energy, if you're always the slave to the system and I have to do this and this and this and this, okay, you're already in the wheel. Remember, karma is a wheel. It's always spinning. It's never a spiral. Eventually, in the middle, you have to find the lesson there and get out. Find the doorway. Find a gateway out of that circle and bring back the spiral of ascension. Ascension is a spiraling reality in which you're always free, no matter where you are. Every choice is divinely aligned. No matter how thick and thin you're going through, what you're going through, you can persevere in any moment and instantly turning back, the shift, the turnover back to God. You give word back to God. And that's why the darkness, and I've been seeing that a lot in my work one-on-one in sessions with people, it has taken away the voice from individuals. There's so many people who I meet and they're beautiful souls and they can't express their throats. Like, they have such weakness still in their voice. It's like darkness work through specific inceptions that they can't use their voice loudly. How can you expect to create an ascendant reality if you can't even express yourself freely? And cutting off of your emotions and feeling less than. You know, for example, masculines feeling lower towards feminines or feminines feeling lowered against fallen masculines. It's always like the way you are leaning back towards a fallen energy. You feel it dominates over you. Anytime you go like, you lean back. What's sovereignty, right? It's you imagine it as a strong, powerful pillar. When you're a gateway for nothing but divine illumined truth. The moment you lean back or too much forward, like when you're leaning like this, you're already swaying. You have to be so firm, my dears. And that's why most people don't watch this, because it's like, yeah, whatever. fluff and fun, right? This, what I'm talking about, the reality I'm here to present, an ascension reality that people now talk about, and there's numerous amounts of readers or energy channelers. They're all in the same boat. You listen to one for, let's say, a week, and you see that they're repeating the same things over and over. No one is bringing information through a spiral, which means every time something new, always inventive, always innovative. I bring you something new every time I show up, because I cultivate that expansion and that evolution within myself. And people usually stay with the sameness. They're repeating same words, same things, same scenarios. And I'm watching this. I've been watching this for years now, this pattern. And it is a part of this collective hypnosis. And I really don't know where it's leading, the majority. But I know that those of you who are willing to really be awake and to access your ascending reality, your true ascension reality, you know that it means work. And the collective hypnosis, the shield, it keeps telling people, these souls, that you're weak and you can't do it, so you'd rather just stay where you are, poor little you. It will eventually just get better. No, it won't. That's the thing, it won't. How are you a creator if you stay passive? It's never going to change. And it's really disheartening for me to say that. And I had to be really firm, like even with some people in my life. Like, for example, even in the last session we had, the beings, you know, the channel, they were like being like this. And they said in the end, well, you wanted the breakthrough, we're giving you a push. And sometimes it's hard for aspects of us that are really clinging on, that they don't want to be told off or hear bad things, but no one is telling you off. When it's done through love, it's done that the push causes a reaction of breakthrough through the barrier of stagnation. And parts of us have been stagnating whether we want to see that or not. There's people who are like, no, I'm fine, you know, like you have to see the aspects of life that have been stagnating for many souls for eons of time. And now we're here and we're presenting all of this, and for many it's just being thrown away and wasted. I've experienced this. People just don't want to choose it. They throw away the gift. What can you do? That's life. But the gift can be offered to those who will appreciate it and who will use it in their own sovereign reality, the way they make it. And they know it's not going to be easy. And you will meet people who will be your challengers because they're not the ones who want to get out, okay? So I've been seeing that the darkness has mostly been, as I've shared in one of my previous videos, doing this sexual trauma work on many star beings, which prevents them to tantrically channel their energy to break through. You need tantric energy within yourself to create breakthroughs. You can't do them mentally. That's why you see people who really, really want something, they can never do it because their voice is blocked and their tantric area is blocked. This goes together. Your intention, your voice even, you know, people who channel beautiful voice, your voice is free. My voice is free. I can speak loud or silent or gentle, it doesn't matter. What is appropriate for each situation, give and take. My spirit assesses that and I follow through. But it's people always like leaning back and being repelled and triggered that your voice is not free, your expression is not free. And that's what darkness gets you. It's through emotional and sexual trauma, because sexual and emotional trauma are very connected. They're like one at the core. So that's how they get soul beings to not stay free, to not break through the barrier. And this has nothing to do with what we talk about Gaia as an organic planet, an organic being. Yes, it exists. There is an illumined core of the planet, but there's also a very refined structure and, you know, held together, sustained together by numerous protocols that are not of illumined light. They're artificial and they're programmed, and because they're so well designed and skilled, not everyone can break through. And that's why we had to become physical. I got this just when transgression began. Before I didn't know what I came here in this planet for. I thought it was the general ascension, you know, things I talked about before, but it wasn't until transgression really began in my life that I knew what I came here, that's my purpose. When I uncovered the deepest darkness, the crevices in which no one wanted to go through. You see, I'm recording almost like the rock is like, it's totally above me. Like most people would freak out. I can record when a rock is literally gonna crumble onto me. I do those things. I'm not afraid of a rock. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But what I'm saying is, this path is really, really for those who've not been afraid to be strong, to be courageous, to start working through whatever the fear is. And most people hear these voices. low self-confidence, low self-esteem, you're no good, you're this, you know, or being triggered by these like appalled. Darkness keeps you away from that which is the light. Or people who are truthful and of the light, then that's not sometimes, in most cases, your voice. Because remember, humanity was birthed through love. And only the voice of love of the mother speaks to you as your authentic self. An extension you yourself have, leading all the way back to the universal mother of life, to the creatrix. And any lowered voice that tries to diminish your own is not coming from illumined light and truth. And you might say, well, maybe that's the truth. Anything you try to create out of fear, like for example, in my case, we try to do something and we don't have the money for it because it's too expensive. And we think we have to because we're doing it out of fear. What if something happens? What if something happens to us in this house? What if something happens? We're so worried, right? We're like this, we're already looping. And any move we do out of fear. But when you resist that, and we had to use a lot of force in our realm, because it's not an easy, it's a very tricky situation we're in, and I don't want to explain it because it's very tricky. This house has many things that would need, like, we calculated, we would need like 50,000 euros of investment to make it worth living, like to be livable, like, you know, inhabitable in a way that's normal. We don't have that money, and it's not up for us to get it, or, you know, you have to know that God brings you everything you need. And if I don't have for that, it means it's not meant to be, okay? And I had to really be strong to know, no, this is not what I'm investing as. This is my temporary situation, my temporary residence. And Jesus told me that when we first moved here. He said, there's no future here. This is only until you heal and do the repair work that's needed after transgression. And I've done that. And I'm there. But what I'm experiencing now is because I'm there, I'm just before the doorway, like they say, we're so close, I'm being attacked again. In a way that's very, I would just say it's very intelligent, but it's also not intelligent in a way that there's no outcome to it. Because what God determines to happen, it's going to happen. The only way that can happen is when your thoughts are like, it can't happen. Your thoughts, like every single thought of yours, every heartbeat right now has to be with the faith in God. Sometimes when darkness will try to get me in these like low situations, something happens that's, you know, or people will tell you something, this won't last, or la la la, and you're like, oh, you feel that anxiety and worry. What will you do? Because you can't handle things physically. Then each time I have to go back, pull back and remember, I'm Aurea. My strength comes in spirit over matter. Not matter then spirit. No, it's spirit over matter. That's me. That's me. I have to find a way back. Where I looped, jumped off, I have to find a way back. And you have to do the same. And every heartbeat now has to be devoted to God. God beats in my heart. God is the one who created this journey. God is the one who wanted and intended this journey. God wants the union. So obviously that should be my focus. And the only reason why it's not and when it's not is when all of these malfunctioning aspects try to kick in and push through my reality. They're really injections. Every day now we have to do this work. Every day, even before going outside today, I have to do the work. Every day so diligently, right? So that's one of the main things I wanted to share in my monologue. Hopefully it's not a monologue. Hopefully it reaches some people who want to be reached, who desire to break free. And to realize that it's not easy because these tactics have become really invasive. And yet, the moment your child within remembers that it is a child of God, and all voices that are dark, demeaning to you, that are trying to make you believe in punishment and that karma is just the wheel in which you can never get off. Yes, people get karma if they're karmic reality, but it doesn't mean they cannot step out of it every single moment. You can step out of it. You can snap out of it and step out. No one is telling you, oh, now you've done the deeds, you have to live in a karmic reality for eons and cycles of time. No. And anyone can repent in any moment. And you have to literally eliminate the word punishment out of your vocabulary, out of your awareness, your embodiment, and your ultimate physical experience. There's no more that. Especially when you punish yourself. That's how darkness works. They won't punish you, but they will make you believe in that, so you will start punishing yourself. And a lot of people then feel that immense sense of guilt and frustration because they think they themselves do that. No, they're not. They're being covertly persuaded into doing that. And it's a deception. But it's a trick that in most cases it works because there's not enough awareness in people, because everyone is so much into pursuing trivial things, material things, things that are not lasting in your pursuit. The only thing that lasts is your evolution in spirit. Nothing here in the physical. You might travel the world and see all the places and you can feel like a big shot or a hot shot. You might come back into the world of spirit as a poor person. Nothing within you shifted. Everything was superficial. The life you've lived was superficial. Nothing. No value, no true value you've accessed or, were able to abundantly access in your life. So Jesus told us in our recent breakthrough, which was just yesterday, he said, now have to live in abundance, no matter how poor your roof is or this is, or just live in the sense, no, I am the queen of my own life. I'm the king of my own life. I'm the fool, which means the 0 point constant access, right? In tarot, that's the fool. That not naivety or foolishness, but innocence. And let that innocence prevail over the heaviness of the thoughts that are trying to be keeping you in a state of self-conflict. These thoughts are always conflicting. And that's why I keep getting so much of the 5 of Wands and the 5 of Swords cards now in my readings. And these are the energies of darkness that are trying to keep people in this. Like 5 of Swords is the battle, the fight you can never win. You eventually have to let it go and just move on to the next thing. And the 5 of Wands is that battle, but it's eventually, you're thinking you're battling other energies, you're in fight mode, or you're triggered, but you're actually fighting aspects of yourself. These aspects are in self-conflict. They can't find a breakthrough. And you might also sometimes need to walk away from people who are in that energy until they figure it out on themselves, because they're passing their own burden on to you. Sometimes just by connecting. And it's an energetic thing. So you might walk away physically from someone and shut the door, but you also have to walk away in awareness, in energy exchange. And ultimately you have to know no more. On and off, right? You have to create that safe passageway, because that part of you that is the mother within you has to find a way. You have to learn how to protect your inner child. No one else will. You might say, well, the Divine Mother protects me, but how? By living in you already. There's no outside force. We might look at it that way when you look up into the stars or everything outside, like nature reflects God to us. It's ultimate love. That's what nature is. But you have to find that within. You have to become your father, your mother. And that's why people have so many mommy-daddy issues, because they don't realize that they're just showing them that they need to birth themselves now. You have to push things and people out of your womb. I've made videos about that, right? So I won't go into repeating that. But I will give you now some mission updates. Like I said, usually I do that on Patreon. But Spirit and my team really wanted me to get this across for everyone, because obviously it's very important. At the first part, I want to tell you some things that have been happening, some messages. And then the second part, I'm going to tell you something mini message that came through for the eclipse. That's going to happen this weekend. We're going to have Belton also. Belton is usually the strongest point, because it's a birth, right? Even in the ancient cultures, they knew that that's a birth of love. That's Eros energy, like emerging again. That's why they erupted maypoles, right? And then they danced around it. Now all these traditions have been lost, become something materialistic. So remember, these tiny little ceremonial things we can still physically cooperate with, because remember, your physical child, your body, your embodied human experience that is now trying to become an ascended reality experience, needs sometimes these ceremonies, because your inner child is directly linked with all the elements, and it tunes directly and magically into the elemental realm. That's why when I go out like this, I'm not just a fool exploring nature, I'm also doing spirit work. In nature, I'll tell you, I never felt transgression energies in nature. Nature is pure love. You can never be attacked in nature. You can never feel bombarded with heavy energies in nature, but they're trying now. Oh, before I go into this, I want to also share with you my latest experience. It was another transgression wave. It happened, was it last week? I had again what I call a transgression dream, and in these dreams, and that's how I knew they're trying hard, very hard now. And it was up to last 2 weeks when I felt huge energy drainage and push and pull, and I knew, oh wow, we must be so close, because these attacks are now so constant. We must be so close to a breakthrough. That's how you'll know, my dears, not by feeling just light and expanded all the times. I mean, we do need to feel that. We open up the energies. we open up and activate inner gateways in our body this way, but then there's going to be things trying to oppress that, and then you have to do another breakthrough, and again and again. It does cause a lot of perseverance. That's why your life force has to be aimed at that, not losing it for superficial, trivial things and people who don't want to cooperate with you, who are not humbled enough by God, by realizing what's happening and appreciating you, and that you're the one paving a path, and they're just like an ungrateful observer. Drop these people, because they're not ready yet. I don't know when they would be. It's their choice, their problem. But you have to know, if you're watching this, if you're feeling the heart, you're the one. You're the one. You've chosen yourself. That's why you are the chosen one. You weren't selected with a magical wand. You did enough preparation work. You were vigilant. You were devoted and loyal to God enough. That's why now God said, it's you. You I'm choosing. I'm going to give you extra support and energy transmission. And that's why everyone now, basically, Master Lamayan told my mom this. And you have to know this, something beautiful. We didn't know this, but a few weeks ago we came here. And my mom says to me, do you know Lamayan hinted at me who we are to each other? Because one day he said to me, do you know we're the only one who can channel me? And you're going to have to learn more about our relationship. And she's like, what? And then I said to her, he's your Illumined beloved, right? He's your spirit counterpart. She's like, I thought so. Because they're so connected, and he's amazing. His being and his connection with us, right? And he said to her just a while ago when we had a transmission that the love I invested in all of the star children, and even people one-on-one we had sessions with, all this now collectively as one is melting the chains and bonds of evil, all this darkness that's evil. And it's true what is happening right now, that we're so close to a very major turnover point. I talked about on Patreon, I won't talk about it here, the threshold point. And this threshold is now turning over into the next segment of our journey, which is called the Big Bang. And it's like things cracking at the seams. And this will affect us very, very much. So I had going back now, a transgression dream, and they all start the same. I'm in bed. I'm not in my physical bed. I'm in that in-between space. And the lights start, you know, gathering around me, which is them. And I'm like, oh no, it's lights again. And now I'm so awake in my human self and my astral human aspect that I know what to do, because in the past, when transgression was still so strong, it had a hold over me. So for example, an inception of their thought that comes in is telling you, no, it's okay, we're the good ones, that's okay, just relax and let go. And they do a paralysis on you. How is a paralysis of love? How is anything that hypnotizes you that you can't move from the light? Your light family would never ever do that to you. They're amazing beings. Never ever would they trespass over you. So part of that thought I heard, and I'm like, no, I have to get moving. And now I know whenever they come, I need to keep on moving. I'm like, no, I have to get up. And I was already feeling the paralysis kicking in. And the one thing, when these lights come in, I see them flickering. They're like ETs, but they're phantoms. I call them the phantoms. And I would often get messages in spirit through titles of the songs that they're being shown to me sometimes on YouTube. And there was recently this song that was being shown, like phantom handshakes coming undone. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really a sign that it's ending. They're losing their grip, and they're losing it, because if they can't get to me, then how will they get, you know, this is intense. But they came, and I always know that I'm not supposed to look at them, because the moment you look at them, that blinking lights, they're very bright. That's their hypnotic work. And I'm like, no, I have to keep on moving. And after a while, I managed to get up, even with almost paralysis. I could feel these energies are very heavy. They kind of numb your body down. You can't move. But I'm so well trained now that even with all this numbness, I started moving. And then I got to this balcony I had there, and I started moving my feet, like jumping and saying, I'm Aurea, I'm Aurea, I'm Aurea. And I was like pulling life force into my body, and eventually it went away and I was good again. But it took a while. And a lot of people won't even have a dream like that, because they're so hypnotized that they're not even going to see it in the astral. They're kind of asleep. So I had this thought emerging that when I have these dreams, it's not just that they're attacks, but I actually saw that in each of these transgression dreams, a part of me that's still chained, that's still in hypnotic mode, wakes up. And when all parts of me in that realm wake up, there's nothing more they can influence, right? So that's what they were fearing all this time. It wasn't easy, because after that transgression dream, I had another inception removal. So my family started working around me. They did work, and I could feel them like hovering and doing things on me. And I had another strong pain. I had another strong pain, and they said, we're really sorry, but we have to do those last pulls out of this and remove all of these energies that are electrical. So I still have kind of like electricity in my teeth here, because I had pain here and here again, because I don't know what channels go in and out, but there's important channels. And these channel points, they said the reason why it's so difficult with these energies, because they're so microscopical in nature, they're very difficult to detect. So they had to mine through my body to get to these particles. And they said, we need to remove every single last bit of them. They said, we're really trying to make sure it's all clear there. So it was difficult, and because of these pains I had another week of delay, but it is what it is, guys. So try to think of every time you had something, it's not just an attack, but it's another part of you waking up. It's not easy, because usually when I wake up from a dream within a dream, and I'm still in the dream reality, I'm still in the hologram. And then something needs to happen, click, or I have to become aware of who I am, and then I wake up again, and then I wake up physically. And that's why I know it's done, it's complete. And the interesting thing with the last transgression dream is that I was so peaceful. Usually, you know, in the past I would panic, oh, not again, what does this mean? I was like so overwhelmed. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Happen again. Means something. Doing the work. What's next? And that's what shows you. Most of you is clear now. But for the majority of people, in their astral bodies are still asleep. And even all these things that people believed about astral travel and all this, it's not a good thing. It's really not a good thing, because a lot of these were induced experiences of the dark. A lot of things we don't know. Like, I'm going to tell you one more example. When the heavy week began, which was 1 week before this one, all week with just oppressive energy. How the energy began for me, I came home, I tried to put a video on, and I couldn't. Something was just wrong, and I couldn't connect my phone and with my computer, and it took me on this wild goose chase, and I was up until 2 a.m. And I was like, nothing worked. Each time I would bounce back off, and then the next morning, I've gotten an insight that the strings, that they can't use anything else. That, you know, even viruses, we say they're in computer. And that's what happened to me in the end. Some very virus-like things. And I'm like, oh no, I have to stop it. I just had to literally say, no, I'm not going there, because it pulls you in so quickly. And then I got this insight that computer viruses are actually manifestations of electric demons, which was my Easter experience. Right after that day, you know, when I did the Lumen Codes translation video, every time I put out an important piece of information, it's like something doesn't want that to come out and will punish me. It will create like a reversal of my experience and try to pull me and say, haha, here you go, now let's go on this wild goose chase. But actually served me in the end, because now I'm no longer putting my videos on my computer and then back and forth, so I just do them on my iPad. My iPad is old already, so I hope it lasts, but either way. So, that's a lot. I want to now tell you some of the things that, oh, sorry, my nose gets always so itchy when I start channeling. Sorry. So anyway, I want to tell you what was our transmission a while ago. That was after Easter. I had a transmission. It was very spontaneous. I pulled my notes, and usually they give me these keywords I have to then decipher. I don't know in the beginning what it means. And the code was synchronous movement of the legislation tactics. Those of you who don't know English, legislation means when you're implementing a law, right? Becoming, right? Viable, normal law, right? Put in place. So legislation is like passing of a law, yeah? So they told me that now, what they were showing me, that the dark ones have, through deception, that was a very difficult piece of information for me to receive, but it was the truth. They have literally bound souls to them. So they did this work of rewriting their contracts, making their soul agreements the moment they came here on Earth. And when Matrix was fully implemented, they started rewriting their contracts, which in the end, they would literally say, now you belong to us, to the darkness. It kind of bound them to it. So to the dark path, by creating loopholes and reversals. So that's what they said, synchronous movement of the legislation tactics, which means that the family of light was doing, they showed me a movement, like imagine each contract was like this, and now the contracts that were first in a circle, imagine the work of Illumined Light teams. They have to go through every single one of these soul contracts for each being individually. Imagine how much that is, because there's a whole lot of beings here. And they had to go through each and every one of them then create rewrites into Illumined contracts and to put them back in a spiral. So these souls had to be put back into the spiral of life, away from the wheel. Remember I shared some of that in the Easter video update, those of you who watched. So these loopholes and reversals that would then literally binded souls to them, which was horrible. For them, it was horrible to witness that. And that was their work then. That was our work for a long time when they were showing me, and I talked about this, right? How God has chosen specific decrees and dispensations that went out to these souls to excavate those distortions and anomalies, find the missing hidden data and links, and then do the collectively rewrites of these soul contracts, again moving into Illumined agreements. So they show me an image. I actually painted it, but I show my professional Illumined light paintings, energetic work on Patreon, right? I do that there. But I'm going to tell you how it looks. They show me an image of a golden spiral, which is moving through the contracts. They're like, imagine them as leaflets of paper, and then a golden spiral moving through them. These binding agreements no longer being like really bound to darkness. So in the middle was like a golden spiral, which is the spiral of the Mother of the Christ. And that was our main liberation work behind the scenes, they said. It was a long-term plan, which means it lasted a long time. But the difficult part is now over, they said. There is no more ripple effects that are now possible any longer. Now is the time and the stage of the protocol, which means when these agreements were kind of put into place, now these souls can start having impulse of the translation of their Illumined light codes. And we did one coffee reading, and there was a being, we had that repeatedly a being on a bed, lying on a bed and receiving these light upgrades during their sleep. And the only reason why they were possible, because this contract, this hovering agreement was over until that dark agreement was there. And they showed me that specifically for one soul I work with, and I knew that being physically, I saw that for them. I didn't know, they were clueless, but I saw it. I'm like, if we're not going to help them, they're going to be stuck in that, like, probably for eons. And, you know, it's not like I ever will receive gratitude or, you know, like, but we did that out of pure love. Because souls that are not yet fully awake yet, they don't see these things happening because they're happening behind the scenes. You can't see them if you're still in the grip of the dark. So they show me like how these contracts are now able to move, and these souls can now feel a sense of breathable reality. Yes, for a while, for a moment, these souls might have difficulties experiencing in their life because they're still purging off of that karmic debris, and they need reflection back to them for some of the things they've done and how they behave due to this, because you have to own things to then repent and move beyond it. Like I had a vision of a man kneeling before Aurea, me, in spirit, like in a black clothing, and he was like, "Forgive me, my lady, I've wronged you again." It was like something like that. He said, like, "I failed you again." And she was like, "No, just forgive yourself so you can move into the next cycle of your life experience and keep looking at the sun." She pointed him towards the direction of the sun. She said, "Just keep walking towards the sun, because as you do, your dark garment will start to dissolve and you can be your full self again." So yeah, now is the time. They said the reason why this alchemical work of igniting these souls with their truth, with the sacred fire of their true soul nature, not the false self that is basically the contractual ego, they said it couldn't take place before. First, the agreement work, the templates have to be set in action. So I did a drawing, I'll show it on Patreon. Now they said the sacred soul alchemy work can take place, which is the Illumined rewrites we've talked about, right? And I did the cards. I do Illumined readings sometimes on my Telegram page. The cards also confirm it. They said now is the time for sacred alchemy. The death of the soul, or the death of the soul experience, was about them now being ready. And the closing of the difficult chapter will now be in place, right? I also had another vision in which Aurea, and this being, right, I had a exchange with, like she was in training, or they were in training, like she would kiss parts of their body, and daisies, the roses would bloom, right? And then each time when a daisy bloomed, because they still had this darkness within them, this like shackled self, the daisies would then wane, wither, and die. And she would say to them, "Do you see what happens when you still have this energy within you? Nothing can truly grow and blossom. Everything automatically dies." And then there were like roots coming from the earth, like biting their body, like trying to cover their body, and they were like panicking, like, no, you know. She's like, let it go, let them, let the earth take this burden, let the earth help you to heal this dark energy, because the earth knows how. She said, just trust. And a lot of beings don't know how healing the earth, the organic aspect of earth is, right, in this. So now with this difficulty, when the soul allows for the soul mission to unfold, everyone's like, I want to live my soul purpose and the soul mission. And yet you're in this entrapment. You can't live it, my dears. You can't. Your soul mission now in this lifetime is not something you do for humanity, but the humanity, the human in you, that's the mission now. And the soul mission is to liberate yourself and be free. That's everyone's mission now, besides your unique gifts. But you can't even access your unique gifts until you're hypnotized and you're in this comatose state. So after this difficult stage, when the soul would allow for the soul mission to start unfolding, the mission unfolds through this alchemical process, then the returning would happen. And I kept getting the message right of returning and the homecoming. So that's that. Let me see. Yeah, they were telling me that there's some extravagant moves now being done. And I think on both sides, I think dark and the light are doing some moves that we're never going to know. There's just me now as a human. I can access the information they show me and nothing less and nothing more. But it was this repetitive message, now or never. They said now or never. And you now, each soul now has to work in reclaiming your voice and your sexuality. And it's not, people when they say your sexuality, it's having sex. No, sexuality is feeling recharged, vital in your body. You have to feel vitality. That's how sexuality begins. Everything that's now sexually binding you to someone like a partner, in most cases it's still karmic, it's still contractual. You know, when people say you contract a sexual disease, well, it's not just physical. It's usually a disease is a manifestation of a toxic energy. So when people are sleeping with toxic people, they contract sexual disease or something. Or any type of disease in your body shows that there's weakness in your body. And the only reason there's weaknesses in your body, there's weakness in your spirit. Your spirit can come in. The only reason you're weak is because your ego doesn't let your spirit come in. It's so easy, the equation, and yet souls were like, yeah, whatever. If you're watching this and saying, yeah, whatever, it doesn't concern me, then click away. So anyway, let me see. Well, the last part they want me to talk about is the energy update for now. About the current happening, right? As you know, we've had cycles when full moons always bring about complete revelation and pulling out of the dark. Full moons are very dark. And new moons have been very vital for beings of the family of light to keep our manifestations intact. That's why we have to be so careful to not get sucked into unimportant, trivial and superficial things during these times. This is our gateways. What's happening now, right? New moon eclipse. This is the time. With the May 1st being Beltane, you will now, everyone who's ready, set the codes, set yourself in motion for union. Remember, Illumined Masters all set. Union is on everyone's scope now. It's the landscape where we're creating from, and we're now needing to pull. And it was difficult to access this beloved energy due to, like I said, transgression, sexual trauma, not expressing ourselves, not using our voice. I often, you know, in my work and with the sessions, had to use my voice to help someone reclaim their own. So I was like a midwife during their transitional process, but eventually you have to grow up and start using yours. And sometimes people would feel very much like, why is she saying this? You know, like pull back. But I had to, because God showed me, do this, speak that. And even if it was uncomfortable for some, because what darkness does is causes a lot of not good enough. You know, a lot of beings, I've seen that, I've been observing a lot, feel they need to come out as perfect, especially like sitting in front of someone like me who is existing in an illumined state. Doesn't matter, I'm also still human. And how can you allow yourself to be loved if you only can see that that person has to see you as you're perfect? So you're hiding your faults, you're hiding your misdemeanors and misconducts and misbehaviors instead of acknowledging them and still feeling that the person still loves you no matter what. But if you're not even allowing them to love you, they're not going to have a chance. And you're not going to have a chance of feeling loved. It's very important now that we access the gateway of the heart, which is, I keep getting this 6 of Pentacles card, which is giving and receiving, that inflow. of illumined intelligence. We really have to open our hearts now. That's a heart exchange. Coming in, coming out, coming in, coming out, without filters, without bias. There's a lot of people who still haven't had a heart awakening, and it's really hard because they believe they're building their reality on their desires. True heart, higher heart awakening is not about your personal desires. It's about higher desires. And behind a higher is everyone's need now, soul level need, to step into these unions, first with ourselves and then our illumined counterparts, because that's what God wants. It's not that, oh, you're not whole and not complete without a soulmate, twin flame. Nothing have to do with that. I'm not about that, as you know. It's about shared wholeness and understanding how God creates feminine, masculine counterparts. That's how the magician energy can flow through, right? So if you know tarot from the higher perspective, all the major arcanum can be read as a story of ascension, from zero to full to the world, which is expansion and ascension. But now people use these cards for truly meanings. That person will call you, that person won't contact you, that person will this, that person will that. That's all I'm hearing now. What the heck? Where are we, in the Middle Ages? It's even worse. I mean, these divine tools of divination, were never meant to be used superficially, and now everyone uses them like that. And it's a mockery of the divine. Priestesses use them in a correct manner long time ago, and then the energy has fallen. Remember, those of you who read great stories and books, what happened is they literally had to, sometimes in these specific eons when the fall happened, they had to just take their knowledge, retreat, and fall, go away, go into the caves. And now when it's resurfacing, it's still resurfacing on this shallow level. And what's wrong with calling it out for what it is? It's not judgment, it's discernment. And only one of God who walks and talks and feels with the heart of God, with the impulse of life, that is the mother ultimately, can say, this is that, that's not that, this is it, that's not it. That's not judging it. It's like God, he calls it out. God can call it out. And it's not like your pointy finger when you're like, judging people. But it's like just seeing it. You're seeing it for what it is. Once you see it, right, you can't unsee it. It is what it is. That's how God is. It is what it is. But there's so much shallow, trivial nature in our realm that it's really a waste of these tools and the gifts that are available. So now moving on to the last transmission. We have full moon versus dark moons, right? Full moons, always darkness coming out, and we get our training then. And with the dark moons, that's when we are active. The moon can't reflect, can't project. So we can access what we call this solar eclipse, right? This true energy. But they gave me this message. Actually, I did a coffee reading, and it was like an egg, and it was just a trigger for me. And I said, oh, this is the eclipse, what it's about. And I started getting words, I wrote them down. And that's tomorrow and May 1st. The biggest influence, it will be always for the integration phase. Sorry about the noise. But I asked what will happen, and they said, God will now make a very important move. We need to be ready, right, for that offering. They gave me this sentence, which I think it says it all. They said, the solar resistance will be broken. Like, what? Solar resistance? I'm like, oh, of course. You know what they did, right? Between the sun and the moon, they created a shield of energy that now conducts the energy in a reversed way. So even this pure photonic light that is of our illumined intelligence and our illumined light teams, our families of illumined light, we can't access it so directly. So when I went through my last transgression dream and healing, afterwards, when they did this work on me, I feel like spiral being drilled here. There's like a gateway point here, like at the top of the head, up front. They said to me, now your communication now will be direct again. So no more like infiltration, right? But they literally said the barrier between the sun and the moon, the cycles were interrupted due to transgression. And now they said, due to this, solar resistance will be broken. That will be a move of God. There's going to be a strong light dispensation. They said crystalline codes will be received by many in dispensation mode. What does this mean? Is souls who are ready to receive. So through their soul agreements. They said this is the action, dispensation is the action of distributing or supplying of something. And now they said, we're now getting prepared for a maximum supply. Before they couldn't, right? Because first they had to realize what was holding these souls back from receiving in the first place, which is the falsification of their contracts. which was binding them literally. They were like shocked when they saw this. I felt it in their energy when they gave me the message. Like a part of them was like, we're also going to shock her when we say this. And I was like, is it that bad? It's not that just they reversed it. They really literally binded souls to them, to the dark path. Where's your choice? Where's your sovereign choice there? It's like splitting of the atom. We all know where that led to, right? So they said, we're now hoping and aiming for a maximum supply as never before. That's what they said. And yeah, they keep saying the codes, the dignity of the soul returning, and it can't happen until the soul comes in. So I told you we had this coffee cup with someone in bed receiving the codes, but in the last one we had a repetition of this message. In the last one there was a fetus coming in, and all these coffee cups are shared on my Telegram page, so welcome guys. They're all there, and you can literally see for yourself. There's an infant, right? There's like a fetus, and that embryo represents like your connection with the link of the soul. Because before, everything else was trying to come into you as a being instead of your soul. That's why you had so much barriers and problems and obstacles and relationships that felt lifeless or loveless. And it's basically you still choosing that because you thought there's nothing else for me. That's it. That's what I can create. How is our creation ever finite? Unless there's an inception that makes us believe that, right? So a lot of you might have what we experience, increased heart palpitations now. This is meaning that the energy is very intense. When you have this, when you're shaking, it means you have to go to the earth and anchor. Literally, you know, I'm lucky that at least no matter where we live and how it is physically, I'm still living in a place that's kind of pure, and I can go directly outside and I can anchor on the grass and my feet. I couldn't have done this before in my life, so that's good. And we have to anchor so much now, guys, because I said the solar work is increasing and energy is just fast changes really fast. And the way the light works fast, the dark will also, as a response, come fast. So those of you who know tarot, we now, as I did a mini reading yesterday when we were out and about, and it was the Seven of Swords. Those of you who know the Seven of Swords, that's a trickery card. That's a deception card. It's, you know, the trickster energy. Someone leaving with the swords, leaving a camp in the middle of the night when you can't even know what's happening. That's how the darkness works. When you're lying in your bed in a vulnerable state, that's when they get to you. When early morning, like they would try to, what they do with me, they can't whisper anymore. So what they do now, and we've both experienced it even with my mom, like you would wake up with a loud sound, like it's a bang. So they try to scare me that something's going on in the house because it's already a bad condition, right? So they would try to perpetuate this notion of something costly being wrong, and me always being in that, being on a lookout state, you know, like being agitated and anxious. And it's not good. And you have to now be visually God, like I said, constantly translate God in every fiber of your being, in every atom, but also be that fool, which is like, whatever, I don't fall for that, whatevs, you know, you have to be like that. Both of these energies now need to, the wise one and the fool, the innocence and the maturity, want to work with spirit, want to let go and relax and just be the human child. And you need to take care of your human child, because when you neglect it, it won't cooperate with you. And you're going to be left hungry and deprived and starved of prana, of God. And you would say, what, everyone else is thriving, not me. Because these people have done the inner child work and maybe you haven't. And people are very much like, I don't want to be the child. That's how darkness gets you. Because remember, I told you, darkness hates the child, because the child is our key to ascension. I talked about this since years. Even before the transgression, I got this message. The child is the key, but it's also the key of the fundamental principle of joy that is in our hearts. And if you don't heal it, it will feel fragile, but it has to feel vulnerable. Vulnerable is good. It means open to life. Feeling fragile is not so good. Fragile has a lot to do with anxiety, with fragmentation, with every time you have an energetic loophole, it will infiltrate into your reality. Every time it infiltrates into your reality, you can't make a sovereign choice of creating what you want to create. Every time you focus on trivial physical matters, desires, you're not honoring the God that wants you to aim higher, to create higher desires, the true legacy of the divine. So I'm going to read you the words again because they're so important. synchronous movement of the legislation tactics, which means all the beings, all the impulses of the light are working in harmony. They're working like this. They bring the impulse of the mother through the, in the best way they can, even with all the infiltration in this realm. But now, all this impulse has gained so much momentum. Imagine like this. Imagine a group of beings chanting for a woman who is in natural birth, you know, and we see all these beings around her. They're like, ooh, hiya, ooh, hiya. And this being finally, you know, gives last push and last birth. And all these beings have assisted her. They were midwifing for her. They were honoring. They were being divine with her. They were all gods. They all participated in this process. And if you think you're like this alone human living somewhere, abandoned in your island of life, and you can't reach others, and people are like, yeah, but I want a community, but the community is already there. It's in spirit. It won't happen physically until enough quotient of light is reached, that the inner communion within you with God is intact, that we once in the new realm create this community. Remember again, I'll repeat the words they said, what happens in this realm determines the next. So only you and your physical experience now on earth will determine where you go next. Still karmic or spiraling, and based on honoring communities, union, living where we want to, bathe with God's intelligence, creating beautiful things instead of just being materialistic. And these are non-refined things. These are things that have zero substance to God, to the world of spirit. They mean nothing. And yet you're still pursuing them out of fear. Because the inner magician hasn't really awoken, right? Like I said, the only true magician is the one that lives fully, ultimately with God. You have to put God in the center of your experience, not the tiny I. The moment you put God in the center of your experience, it's like, oh, you know, everything doesn't stand a chance when it's low. Anything less than God cannot persist in your reality, in your life. It can't. You will no longer be able to infiltrate and cause a different reality. And the reason why it's so difficult is already like the masters of Illumined Light explained, because there's too few people, too few beings doing it. And now it comes as a burden to those few who've woken up enough to do them first. And no matter how much they are doing this, right, the encouragement, we need to open up the gateways, prepare our bodies to open up and activate these gateways. So now this flooding of light can come through, and the solar, between the solar light and the lunar, can be broken. And I always tell you, stop worshiping the moon. Stop it. I'm the goddess of the moon. Well, fine, stay in that illusion then. Be a god and goddess of God. And that's infinite creation. It's not like a satellite beaming a specific encoding that's been hijacked eons ago anyway. Be with that which is organic. Connect to the organic core of the earth, because the earth in its core that's illumined already translates the codes of the sun. The same with your body. The moment you're not in integrity with yourself, not in alignment with your spirit, you're not aligned with God. You can't create refined things of divine beauty and immaculate nature that are timeless. They're ageless. They're meaningful, they're mission-based. So instead of, I want to live my mission, why am I not? Go towards, how can I liberate all that is not that? You have to be so fierce, my dears. I had to be fierce all my life. And yes, it was difficult. I had to be very much this like magician self, masculine channel energy. I could really be the empress, right, in tarot. That's kind of like my next stage. I was the fool. I was the innocent child. I was the magician. I was the priestess, right? The channel. The only thing remaining, and that goes for all of us, is to be the empress and then the emperor. The moment when the feminine becomes the empress, then the masculine can become the emperor. So how this journey, how this next cycle affects our unions, I'll be talking about on Patreon. You know, I do Illumined Union updates on Patreon. You can always join me there whenever is at your comfort level. If your desire always, you know, sometime would pull you there, that's okay. If not, that's fine too. That was something like really lying heavily on my heart. I let it go out. Finally, I put this out. I shared it with all. I know I made a lot of mistakes today because I tried to speak fast. I have a whole field trip ahead of me, so I need to shift some energies. There's kind of like abruptive energies now. But remember when I told you the 7 Swords card, we have to be always vigilant and aware of it. When is this deception and how still coming in between me and myself, between me and God, and between me and my union? That's our last remaining portion of our work, to detect this. And each time we detect it, to find ways to dissolve it, to eliminate it completely. Some of you might do May 1st, which is actually the last day of April. We do bonfires. I think there's a way we might maybe do it on our land. We do mini fire. And what you can do, I just recommended this to someone. You can write words of low feelings that you felt maybe all your life, or things that were so repetitive you couldn't get out of. Write them down, then cross them over with a red pen, then burn them, give them, surrender them to the fire. Call in the violet flame of transmutation, transformation, and transfiguration. Let your soul be purified. Work with the elements, not just with your mind. You can't be a magician with the mind. Then you're just going to join the club of the transgressors. Work with that which is organic. Move spirit and matter. Spirit and matter always have to cooperate to be one. That's a basic esoteric or metaphysical teaching. But everyone has to unlock that which is not true or which is false in their own reality to access there or that. So I wish you all the best in that process. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little longer one today as well, because it was a huge update and transmission. It wasn't shared on Patreon, but with all of you. I hope you appreciate that. If you do, you're always welcome to send me a donation. If not, that's fine too. Thank you anyway, just for your presence and your well intentions. You know, recently someone in my Patreon team, they were just so sweet. I can't believe sweet people like that exist, because I've experienced a lot of bad, you know, a lot of ish in my life. A lot of people who are just damn right an ego and selfish and controlling. And the person just said, you know, it's not a burden for us to serve you, our queen. And I'm like, what? I feel always weird when people would call me, you know, our queen. I'm like, yeah. You know, and I said to them, I really understand, you know, and there's only as much as we can do physically, like, you know, with money, or I can't get physical assistance. Sometimes I would need physical assistance and there's no one there. You know, the only person we know, they're always so running out of time. They never have time. So it's like, oh, it's not always the money, right? If you can't get someone to help you, sometimes you need practical things too. And then I said to the person, you know, the ultimate gift you can give in return, it's not just for me, it's for all the Illumined Light team, is to believe in us and to believe in our work by believing in yourself and making yourself a part of this work, this legacy, and just have absolute faith that our plan is working, that this divine blueprint, this divine design, illumined divine design of life, that is God, that is immaculate intelligence of the divine, is working. And when people have faith in me as an illumined being, and my team and many legions of illumined beings, they have faith in God, because these beings work on the behalf of God. God is just the central source intelligence. It operates through us, through beings that are carrying this intelligence forth. And when you think, oh, there's just a person giving messages here. No, I live my life like this, guys. And we have faith. And stop questioning me and thinking, she's like this, and being triggered by me, and I don't like her. Maybe I do like her, maybe I don't. You know, people like this exist. I know them. Make up your own goddamn mind. And if you feel there's a fierce nature working behind me, that's God. And it wants to reach across and tell you things for the betterment of you. Not to tell you off, but to push you out of the space that's a comfort zone. And if you recognize that as a gift, when everyone else is just telling you to stay the same, then recognize it as a gift and make up your own goddamn mind. And by doing that, you honor me, you honor yourself, you honor God instead of mocking it. I'm like, yes, no, Choose life, choose God. And that's probably for me the response of how you can assist the plan to come about for many beings the most. Believe in us, equally believe in yourself. Have faith in God, have faith in the divine plan, and all of us who work to serve it, and all of you who are ascending to fulfill it. You're all crucial elements of this. There's no fulfillment without all of you. We will only fulfill it when all parts play their roles. So see all of us as one. We have different parts in the plan, we have different viewpoints, we have different assignments, and yet we're all equal under the name that is God. So through the holiness of beloved Christ, which is our cosmic Christ life principle in this beautiful creation, I greet you, and as always, so much love is in power. The best energetic donation to me is when you send me love, and appreciation and honor me and respect me and my work as much as I respect all of you, and showing up and doing this, and going under caves to escape the wind, and hiking and climbing so I can get the best possible vista and view if I can, besides the work that I do every day with spirit. That's like, it's been a war. It's been a war. And as you know, it's not just wars happening on the planet, they're just reflections of a major war. And all these bombardments of what's trying to get our attention elsewhere are filters. They're inserted so you couldn't see clearly, right? Like each filter you get, right, the less and less you see clearly. So we have to first work on removal of all that is not divine. And then we can actually access the divine. If you think you're just gonna, with the mind, access the divine, it's just gonna automatically come, no, because first you have to unfilter, unclog, purge, eliminate, dissolve, and literally destroy all that is not for God, all that is of evil, all that is of transgression and inception. So I wish you so much success in that. And if you ever want to work with me one-on-one, my sessions are super powerful, super intense. I don't want to advertise myself too much because I want to have a carefree spring and summer, but I'm always there to assist anyone who needs extra push and some revelations. My main work, as you know, is with the liberation, and I will help you to access the points which now need most liberation, and I can access blind spots that people sometimes can't see. So that's my superpower. If that's a calling, you can always reach out. My webpage is there, Serapina Light. My Telegram page is Ascension Pioneers, and the rest is just me here, Polona Aurea, being a human. See, I got this shirt, just says Aurea. I just loved it because it has a white A, and that's Aurea for me. So from my Aurea's love to yours, through our one love of that which is ultimate life, that is perfection, I greet you, and I wish you a beautiful day wherever you are, and have a magnificent eclipse experience. And if you can, meditate with us. We're going to create some powerful breakthroughs, isn't it? Booyah. I've said it. Booyah. See you guys. Bye for now. Bye. Now feel free to receive the Illumined codes of light to support you in your process as a mini transmission by the sacred waterfall to help and assist your sacred process in the body to receive the maximum codes of illumined light as the ultimate nourishment and support of God, the almighty force of life that is illumined and immaculate. Amen.
Magical.